My name is Ebony Grissom, and I'm 31 years old. Tonight, the cranberry sauce made its third slow orbit around the table without ever landing near my plate. It was almost impressive, the way it found every hand but mine. Aunt Linda's rings glinting, Uncle Mike's grin too wide, Cousin Sarah narrating her own passing of it like a flight attendant offering peanuts in a storm. Dad took the floor without standing. Assistant VP of Regional Operations, he said, the title puffing him up like a parade balloon. 32 years with the same company. That's called loyalty. He didn't need to look at me to make the point. The glance still came, a quick blade that nicked the skin and vanished. Such a blessing to have everyone together, Grandma Rose said, lifting her water glass with surgeon steady hands. Derek, honey, help yourself. You look thin. That used to be me, the one everyone worried over. Somewhere along the way, worry calcified into assumptions, and assumptions calcified into jokes. Derek, Boeing engineer, walking LinkedIn post, smirked into his Cabernet like we shared a secret. We did, but not the one he thought. So, Ebony, Uncle Mike said, setting down his fork with genuine curiosity, and for a second I softened. What are you up to these days? Last I heard you were doing something with tech. Actual interest. Imagine that. I opened my mouth, ready to answer with something simple and true. Dad cut cleanly across my breath. She's bouncing around, he said, a dismissive flick of his hand, the way you shoo smoke. You know how it is. These girls with their, what do they call it? Portfolio careers. Laughter. A chuckle from Brad. A sympathetic head tilt from Aunt Linda. Must be stressful, dear, she offered, like a condolence card. Mom added, remember how Ebony wouldn't eat anything green? Memories marshaled as evidence for a theory no one asked me to confirm. I counted the places the story of me had been told tonight without me. 5 so far, 6 when Derek leaned in. 5th job in 2 years, right? He said lightly. Or is it 6? The dining room glowed, Dad's award plaques like little suns along the wall. The knife by the turkey caught the chandelier's light. Everything gleamed except the part of me that wanted to be known. I set my fork down carefully, the way you set down something you could break if you squeezed. Excuse me, I said, pushing back my chair. Mom's eyebrows knit. During dinner, Ebony? It's important. Dad, more important than family? Yes. My voice didn't even shake. In his office, my father's cathedral of laminated certificates, Employee of the Quarter, 1997, framed like a portrait, I stood in front of the shelf where he keeps his career the way other men keep trophies. My reflection wavered in the glass. I pulled out my phone. Jessica, it's Ebony. She answered on the first ring. Happy Thanksgiving. Are you ready to be famous or still hiding out? We'd been circling this for weeks. The tech-forward profile, the photos, the pull quotes I'd edited so they wouldn't sound like a victory lap. I didn't want a victory lap. I wanted a record. Run it tonight, I said. Tonight? Jessica laughed, then stopped when she heard me breathe. Okay, the piece is ready. I'll need your final green light on the photos. You have it. Push to everything. Site, socials, newsletter, all of it. A beat where I could hear her assessing me like an editor and a friend. What happened? I looked at Dad's plaques. 32 years of never missing a potluck, an anniversary, a chance to be safe. Nothing new, I said. Just finally done pretending it doesn't matter. Give me 20. I stayed in the office, counting my own seconds against the hum of the HVAC. I texted Noah, who never tried to fix my mood with advice, dropping the tech-forward piece tonight. He replied in under a minute, proud of you. I'm here. Breathe. 20 minutes became 18. A notification lit the screen. Tech Forward. Live. How Ebony Grissom quietly rebuilt. Talent acquisition while everyone was looking elsewhere. Then the flood. LinkedIn pings, emails, the kind of buzzing that makes a phone feel alive. I gave the house time to notice before I walked back, down the hall past the family photos where Derek grew up in glossy sequence and I appeared like a guest star, out of order, occasionally blurred. When I stepped into the dining room, the energy had changed temperature. Aunt Linda's reading glasses were perched halfway down her nose as she squinted at Sarah's phone. Uncle Mike's jaw had unhinged slightly. Brad mouthed numbers like prayers. Even Grandma Rose, the only person still eating, held her fork mid-air, amused. Phones pulsed, the table's second centerpiece. Mom frowned, instinctively policing. Why is everyone on their phones? Mom. Derek said, voice flattened by disbelief. You need to see this. He passed her his screen. Her face rearranged itself as she read. Recognition, shock, and, briefly, pride. Like a skittish animal that darted before it could be named. Jim, she whispered, look. Dad took the phone like it might bite him. The headline glared back, bright as a siren. 30 under 31. Ebony Grissom's unconventional path to seven-figure consulting. Jessica's joke, I could hear her cackle, 30 under 31. What is this? Dad asked, the words even, the knuckles white. It's my job, I said. Uncle Mike read aloud because silence suddenly weighed too much. You made $2.3 million last year? Cousin Sarah, the anthropologist of other people's choices. Is this real? I opened my own phone to my profile, to the photos of boardrooms and whiteboards and flights I didn't brag about. It's my work, I repeated, and this time I didn't apologize for the space my voice took up. Dad's phone began to vibrate on the table, face down. It kept going. Buzz, 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 call after call, stacking like dishes in a sink. I watched him resist picking it up, the way you resist scratching a burn. Why didn't you tell us? Mom asked, very small. I tried, I said, not unkindly. At Thanksgiving, at Easter, at Derek's wedding when I stood next to the photo booth and you asked if I'd thought about applying at your friend's office. Every time, Dad changed the subject or announced his titles louder. I gestured at the plaques. So I stopped competing with the wall. Grandma Rose dabbed her mouth, unhurried. Jim, she said, still looking at her plate. The girl is speaking. The girl, 31. Still, I wanted to hug her for calling me hers. Brad cleared his throat. It says here you consulted for 6 Fortune 500 companies in a year? 7, I said, because honesty is a habit that keeps you warm when people question your worth. Derek's smirk had drained away, leaving him younger, almost boyish. He looked at Dad as if waiting for the line he was supposed to repeat. Dad didn't provide it. He kept staring at the phone like it was a ticking thing. Consulting isn't a real job, he said finally, like reciting a family prayer. No pension, no stability. I have health insurance, I said, and a portfolio that outperforms your pension, and I don't measure stability by time served. More important than family? He asked again, softer this time, as if the question could be retrofitted into care. More important than being mocked by it, I said. Another vibration jolted his phone toward the edge of the table. Uncle Mike slid it back with 2 fingers. Because some instincts, save the glass, catch the plate, don't disappear in a crisis. Grandma Rose set down her fork, finally meeting Dad's eyes. You could have asked her, Jim, she said, voice even. At any point in the last 3 years, you could have asked, and you did not. I felt something unclench inside me, a knot I'd been feeding with silence for a decade. In the next room, Dad's office waited with its certificates and glass and perfect chronology. In this room, everyone waited for him to spin. He didn't, not yet. The phone kept buzzing, louder in the hush. I glanced at my screen, another notification rolling in. A name I recognized from an Asia time zone. The very large fintech CTO I'd been trying to schedule. I wondered what it would be like to take a call without wondering how to translate it for this table. Excuse me, Dad said at last, standing abruptly, taking his trembling phone with him down the hall. No one spoke for a beat. Then Aunt Linda exhaled, shaky. Ebony, she said, that article, it's beautiful. Grandma Rose leaned toward me. Your grandfather would have liked the part about building something no one else could see, she said. He would have told you to make them see it. The knife by the turkey flashed again, catching a little of my smile. In my pocket, the phone buzzed once more. Unknown caller. A New York number. I didn't answer. Not yet. I lifted my water, felt the glass cool against my fingers, and let the quiet live a moment longer while the house realized a new story had arrived, and it was mine. When I woke up the next morning, my phone looked like it had survived a storm. Hundreds of notifications, emails stacked like bricks, messages from names I hadn't heard since college. My LinkedIn profile had doubled overnight. And there it was on the front page of Tech Forward, trending across every business feed. How Ebony Grissom quietly rebuilt talent acquisition while everyone was looking elsewhere. Jessica's text landed at 6:07 a.m. It's blowing up. 60K shares in 4 hours. Brace yourself. I smiled, but not the kind of smile that feels light. This was heavy. The kind that comes with realization that you've changed something. that you can't take it back. When I walked into the kitchen, Mom was at the table with her coffee, scrolling her phone with that half-tilted look she got when trying to read without glasses. Dad sat across from her, in his robe, his face pale in the morning light. He looked up. "You made quite a splash," he said. His tone was somewhere between accusation and disbelief. "It's work, Dad, that's all." He held up his phone, screen bright with a headline. 2.3 million? That's not work. That's a lottery. "No," I said calmly. "It's the result of 3 years of working while everyone assumed I was failing." Mom tried to soften the air. "Ebony, sweetheart, we're proud of you." "Are you?" I asked, and it came out sharper than I meant. "Because last night you laughed when Dad called me unstable. You told Aunt Linda I should apply at your friend's office because at least it's steady." Mom blinked like she hadn't expected me to remember. Dad put his mug down, a little too hard. "You embarrassed me, Ebony." I froze. "Excuse me?" "You humiliated your family in front of everyone. That article made it sound like you built your career alone, like you didn't come from somewhere." "Because you weren't there," I said quietly. "Every time I tried to show you, you turned it into a joke. You made me smaller so you could stay comfortable." He stood. "You think you're the only one who works hard? 32 years, never missed a day, and you act like I'm the problem because I don't post about it on some app." The argument hit a wall when Grandma Rose appeared in the doorway, wrapped in her robe, hair pinned back like a queen who didn't need a crown. "That's enough," she said. "Jim, she didn't embarrass the family. You embarrassed yourself by never asking what your daughter actually does." Dad's mouth opened, then closed. He sat back down. Mom stared at her mug as if it might offer her an escape hatch. I grabbed my coat and keys. I have calls to take. "On Thanksgiving weekend?" Mom asked weakly. "Yes, that's what people who work for themselves do." By noon, I was back in my apartment. Noah was there, sprawled on the couch, laptop open, eyes soft when he saw me. "You okay?" "Depends on your definition." He stood, pulling me into his arms. "You made history, Ebony. That article, people are finally seeing you." "Yeah, and Dad's already rewriting it." He frowned. "What do you mean?" I tossed my phone onto the table and showed him the notification. Incoming call. Patricia Morrison, Wall Street Journal. I answered on speaker. "Ms. Morrison?" "Ms. Grissom, good afternoon. I'm following up on your feature. We're running a companion piece. Your father agreed to an interview." My stomach dropped. "What did he say?" She hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "He spoke about how he's always encouraged your entrepreneurial spirit, how he believed in your independence. He said he raised you to think for yourself." Noah's eyes widened. I almost laughed. "He said that?" I asked, keeping my voice level. "Yes, he seems very proud of you." I closed my eyes, the kind of pride that arrives decades too late. "Thank you, Ms. Morrison. I don't have a comment right now." "Understood," she said, "but for what it's worth, congratulations. It's a remarkable story." When the call ended, Noah let out a slow breath. "So he's taking credit." "Of course he is," I said. "He's been doing it my whole life. When I won the science fair, he told people he built my model. When I graduated, he told everyone I almost didn't make it. He rewrites everything he touches." Noah sat beside me. "Then don't let him write this." "How?" "Tell your truth louder." The next morning, Jessica sent me the WSJ PDF before it went live. The headline, "Tech Dad's Pride in Daughter's Success." Every quote was a knife disguised as praise. I always knew Ebony would make an impact. Her drive reminds me of my own. I taught her to think long-term, not chase trends. I read it 3 times. By the end, my jaw hurt from clenching. The comments section was already filling. "What an inspiring family. We need more dads like Jim Grissom." I dropped my phone face down on the table. Noah watched me. He made himself the hero. "Yeah," I said bitterly, "and I'm the plot twist he's pretending he saw coming." He reached for my hand, then changed the ending. That evening, Mom called. "Ebony, honey, your father feels awful." "Does he?" "He was just surprised. We all were. You never told us you were doing so well." "I tried," I said quietly. "Every time you both interrupted or changed the subject. I stopped trying when it became clear you didn't want to know." "That's not fair," she said quickly. "You could have tried harder." The old reflex to apologize bubbled up, but I swallowed it. "No, Mom, you could have listened better." There was a long silence, then, "Derek wanted to talk to you. Maybe you could give him advice for Boeing." "Sure," I said. "He can book a consultation. Family discount, $450 an hour." "Ebony," she gasped, but I'd already hung up. When I looked at my inbox, there it was, an email from Patricia Morrison again. "We've confirmed your father's quotes. Would you like to provide your own?" I didn't respond. Not yet. Instead, I opened a new document, the cursor blinking like a pulse, and I started writing about the dinners, the dismissals, the years of being the family's invisible achiever. Every line a reclamation. When I finished, Noah was leaning on the doorway, watching me. "What's that?" "Insurance," I said, the truth written down. He nodded. "Good. Don't let them edit your story this time." Outside, the city hummed below the window. My name, Ebony Grissom, was trending in a world that had ignored me for years. And for the first time, I wasn't trying to earn my family's approval. I was preparing to survive their version of events. The next day, the fallout began, quietly at first. A polite, vaguely worded press release from Dad's company appeared on LinkedIn. "While we value the dedication of all employees, the views expressed by Mr. Grissom regarding his daughter's career do not reflect our organization's values surrounding diverse career paths and innovation." Translation: they were publicly washing their hands of him. By lunch, it was everywhere. My father, the man who'd spent 32 years building a spotless corporate reputation, had become a cautionary footnote in his own industry. And I hadn't lifted a finger. My phone buzzed again. "Jessica, WSJ is catching fire. Everyone's asking about your dad. Do you want to make a statement?" "No," I said flatly. "Let the record do it." But the truth was already spreading, faster than either of us expected. People had started pulling receipts. Years of Dad's public posts, birthday messages for Derek, photos from every milestone that I was barely in. Graduations, promotions, holidays. Derek front and center, smiling. Me? Blurred at the edge of the frame, or cropped out entirely. Someone even made a side-by-side collage. Jim Grissom's family pride history. Notice anything missing? The comments burned through the internet like wildfire. You can tell which kid he actually loved. Classic corporate narcissist. Imagine finding out your dad erased you in real time. Dad turned off comments by noon, then deleted his profile by 2. That evening, I called Grandma Rose. She answered on the first ring. "Hello, dear. Have you seen the mess your father's made of himself?" I sighed. "Yeah, I've seen it." "Well," she said crisply. "Good. He deserves it." "Grandma." "No, Ebony, he's been cutting you down for years. He told people you were unstable, flighty. Remember when you got that scholarship to Stanford? He told everyone it must have been a diversity quota." I closed my eyes. I remember. "I spoke to that nice reporter woman this morning, the one from the Wall Street Journal." My breath caught. "You what?" I told her the truth. That your father laughed when you tried to talk about your work. That your family made you the joke of every dinner. That you didn't humiliate him. He humiliated himself. "Grandma, the article's already—" "Let them print it again," she said sharply. "This time with the facts." There was steel in her voice, the same kind of steel I'd spent years pretending I didn't have. "You're angry," I said softly. "I'm relieved," she corrected. "For once, the truth doesn't die in that house." Later that night, I sat at my desk staring at a blank document, the same one I'd opened the night before. The cursor blinked, impatient, and I started to write. About the science fair Dad missed because Derek had a baseball game. About my high school graduation, where he told people my degree was cute but not practical. About every family dinner, where my achievements were interrupted by his. It poured out of me, 20 pages of silence breaking. When I finished, I saved it and titled it, "The Truth About Success." Then I attached it to an email addressed to Patricia Morrison. Subject, my side. "Use what you want. I'm done protecting people who never protected me." I hit send before I could hesitate. At 5:42 a.m. the next morning, the Wall Street Journal dropped its follow-up piece. "The real story, when family success means family erasure." Patricia didn't hold back. She cross-checked quotes, found contradictions, pulled social media archives, even interviewed one of Dad's old coworkers who said, he never mentioned having a daughter in tech. The piece detailed everything. Every missed milestone. Every time Dad had mocked my choices. Every family gathering where I'd been dismissed. And then, the quote they pulled from my email, "I don't need an apology. I don't even need acknowledgement. I just need silence from the people who made me doubt my worth." When I finished reading, I realized I was shaking, not from fear, from release. By 8 a.m., my inbox was chaos. Messages from colleagues, CEOs, even recruiters I hadn't spoken to in years. Ethan Wong, the Singapore CTO I'd been chasing for months, texted first. "Saw your WSJ piece. You're a force, Ebony. Let's do business." We spoke that night. 1 hour later, I had a signed contract worth $380,000 and an invitation to keynote their leadership summit in March. I stared at the number on the screen. My phone vibrated again. Another text from Derek. I read it, all of it. You're right. I should have defended you last week. I'm sorry. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't feel it, but because I wasn't sure what forgiveness looked like anymore. By evening, the article had reached 500,000 shares. People were calling it the Thanksgiving Reckoning. Podcasts were dissecting it. HR forums were debating toxic professional parents. And my father's silence online had become its own kind of confession. I poured a drink, sank into the couch beside Noah, and opened my laptop. Are you reading the comments again? He asked. Not the comments, I said. The headlines. He smiled faintly. You've earned everyone. Outside, the city lights flickered across the glass like applause. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was performing. I felt like I'd reclaimed authorship. The story of me no longer belonged to anyone else. 2 days after the Wall Street Journal piece exploded, my name hit Forbes' radar. The subject line of the email was short, almost casual. Feature request. Forbes would like to profile you. I stared at it for a long minute before opening it. Ebony, your story is resonating deeply with our editors. Not just your success, but your courage to define it on your own terms. We'd like to do a full cover story. Your business methodology, your background, your rise. Are you open to an interview this week? I reread that line 3 times. Cover story. It didn't feel real, but when I looked at Noah, sitting on the couch with his laptop, it started to sink in. He grinned. They're not doing you a favor, Ebony. They're just catching up. I laughed softly. You sound like Jessica. She's right, he said, walking over. You didn't get lucky. You got loud. That's different. I nodded, the weight of that sentence sitting somewhere between pride and exhaustion. By that evening, the world had turned inside out. My inbox was a storm. Conference invites, client inquiries, even a VC firm offering to fund a startup built around my consulting model. Jessica sent me a screenshot of my website analytics. Traffic's up 2,000%. You broke the internet. But the same storm was brewing somewhere else, the one with my last name attached to it. At exactly 9:13 p.m., Uncle Frank called. Hey, kiddo, he said. Brace yourself. Your dad's in trouble at work. I pressed the phone tighter. How bad? HR opened an investigation. Something about his Wall Street Journal. Comments violating company media policy. They're saying he blurred the line between personal and corporate representation. He might not get fired, but a demotion's on the table. I went quiet. Frank exhaled. Look, I'm not telling you this so you'll feel guilty. You shouldn't. You told the truth. He's just dealing with the consequences of decades of arrogance finally catching up to him. Is Mom okay? She's trying to do damage control, but, well, you know her. She wants peace without accountability. That sounded right. Mom was the kind of person who thought silence was love, as long as it kept the house from shaking. Thanks for telling me, I said. Anytime, kiddo, and for the record, I'm proud of you. That last part hit harder than I expected. An hour later, I got the email. Not from Uncle Frank, from Mom. Subject, please help your father. Ebony, your father made mistakes, but he's paying for them now. He could lose his job. Can't you issue a short statement, something like, my dad always supported me privately? It would really help him. He's terrified. Please, sweetheart, do the right thing. The right thing. That phrase used to paralyze me. Now it just made me tired. I stared at her words, then typed my reply. It wasn't one mistake, Mom. It was 30 years of them. I didn't make him lie to the press. I didn't make him ignore me at every milestone. I didn't make him treat me like a disappointment while praising Derek for breathing. I'm not destroying him. He's just standing in the light for the first time. I hit send. Noah found me an hour later, still at my desk, laptop open but untouched. Email from your mom, he guessed? I nodded. She wants me to protect him again. He leaned against the wall. Are you going to? I shook my head. Not this time. He crossed the room, wrapped his arms around me. You know what I love about you? What? That you still care enough to feel bad about doing the right thing. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Do you think that makes me weak? I asked quietly. No, he said. It makes you human. The Forbes interview happened 2 days later over Zoom. David Chen, the editor, had one of those calm, curious voices, the kind that invited confession. He asked about my consulting work, my methods, my philosophy. Then, halfway through, he asked, Do you think you'll ever reconcile with your father? I hesitated. The screen reflected my face, tired, sharp, finally mine. I don't know, I said honestly. I spent years trying to earn something that should have been given freely. I'm not chasing it anymore. He nodded. That's powerful. When the call ended, I sat there in silence. Outside, Seattle rain streaked the window like brushstrokes. My life, loud, messy, public, was somehow quieter than it had ever been. 2 nights later, Jessica texted me. Forbes cover confirmed. Congrats, boss lady. I smiled, but another notification popped up from an unknown number. When I opened it, my chest tightened. Dad's been suspended. Mom's not answering her phone. Call me if you want to talk. Derek. I didn't reply. I just turned my phone face down, the screen going dark. Noah walked in from the kitchen, 2 mugs of tea in his hands. He saw my face and set them down gently. What happened? Dad's suspended, I said. He might lose everything. Noah was quiet. How do you feel? I looked at him, like justice and grief can live in the same room. He nodded slowly. That's the hardest kind of peace. I laughed weakly. Jenna, your ex, once called me too intense. Maybe she was right. He smiled. She also said I'd never find anyone who challenged me. So thank you for proving her wrong. That made me laugh for real. For a moment, it was just the 2 of us, the storm outside, and the warmth of someone who didn't need to be impressed to believe me. That night, before bed, I opened my email. Jessica had sent over the Forbes draft layout, my photo, framed against the Seattle skyline, headline in bold. Success on her own terms. How Ebony Grissom built a consulting empire while her family wasn't watching. I stared at it for a long time, not out of disbelief, but recognition. For once, the story had my name on it, and it didn't belong to anyone else. The Forbes issue hit, stands 13 days later. My photo stared back at me from newsstands, airports, coffee shop racks, the woman who rebuilt her own name. I didn't expect what came next. The article went viral again, even outside business circles. People called it the anthem for the overlooked. Podcasts discussed it. Panels quoted it. LinkedIn lit up with strangers tagging me under hashtags like #define your success and #family does not equal validation. And somewhere in that noise, my father vanished from view. 2 days after the cover dropped, I got a text from Derek. Saw the piece. You look happy. I don't think I've ever seen you look like that. I'm glad you found it, even if we weren't part of the journey. I stared at the message for a long moment before replying. Thanks, that means something. Not forgiveness, not erasure, just acknowledgement, and that was enough. That weekend, Grandma Rose invited me for dinner. Her house smelled like rosemary and roasted potatoes, same as when I was 10 and hiding from the noise of the world. She'd framed the 2 magazine covers and hung them in her living room, right beside Grandpa's old Navy photo. Your grandfather would have loved this, she said, handing me a glass of wine. He always said the people who make it look easy never had easy paths. I smiled. I didn't set out to prove anything. I know, she said. That's why it matters. You weren't trying to win. You were trying to build something real. The point made itself. Her words stuck to me like warmth I didn't realize I'd been missing. Monday morning, an envelope arrived at my office. No return address, but the handwriting was unmistakable. Dad. My heart stuttered. I held it for a while before opening it. Ebony, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even know if I deserve it, but I need you to know I see it now, what I did and what I didn't do. Uncle Frank made me sit down and look through old family photos. Do you know you're barely in any of them? I never noticed. I was always focused on Derek, always pushing him forward. I told myself I was being practical, protecting you from disappointment, but really, I was just scared. Scared that your success might look different than mine. And if it worked, that meant I'd wasted my life playing it safe. Seeing you succeed despite me, maybe even because you had to fight against me, that's hard to swallow. You didn't need me. You never did. And I think that's what I couldn't handle. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know I finally understand. I'm proud of you. I should have said it years ago. Dad! I read it 3 times. The first time with disbelief, the second with anger, the third with something like grief. It wasn't an apology, not fully, but it wasn't manipulation either. It was human. I slipped it into my desk drawer beside the Forbes copy. Maybe someday I'd answer, but not today. Because today, I had a conference call with a new client in London, a 6-figure engagement that I'd earned without needing a single word of approval from home. Noah popped his head in as I was setting up. You good? Yeah, I said, smiling, and actually I am. He nodded. Then go make more history. As I turned to my laptop, I caught sight of the 2 framed covers behind me, Tech Forward and Forbes. 2 versions of the same truth, the one they ignored and the one I wrote myself. Outside, the city hummed with morning traffic. Inside, I felt something settle. Not revenge, not victory. Just stillness. Because for the first time, the story of Ebony Grissom didn't begin or end with my family. It simply began with me.